Morning. This is going to be a video dedicated to you folks that constantly have questions about new sod and new seed. Warning, this isn't entertaining. This is a discussion, so it's going to be boring if you don't have new sod or have new seed or are planning on new sod. So you might want to go watch Netflix. So hold on and we'll get into it. Hey guys, I always get a lot of questions every time I do a video about new sod and new seed and caring for it. And of course, make sure you have the Bermuda Lawn Guide. Make sure you smash that subscribe button because we got a bunch of crazy stuff that's happening this fall that I can't tell you about. That's going to be really cool. Really cool. So all I'm going to do in this video today is I'm just going to take some of the questions that I get in the comments down below and I'm going to answer them for you. So let's just run through this. My number one rule for new sod and new seed, number one, leave it the hell alone. The first growing season, you want one full growing season where you basically just leave it alone. Don't be OCD about it. Don't be anal about it. Don't even everyone starts to freak out about their new sod and they start to see a couple weeds. Just leave it alone. Let it grow. So that's my number one rule. Chill out. Take a chill pill. Take a chill pill and just relax. The first growing season is just to let the plant establish, to let it grow. And the second season we'll start to do things, a lot of control and weed treatments and that kind of stuff. So first I want to talk about installation. If you're going to install sod, what can you do? Well, if you're going to install sod, the one thing I would do is typically they're going to till up the ground, hopefully. And if they do that, I'd put out a crap load of humichar because that's your only time to get it deep into the soil. Put out some humichar, and I really want you to get, now this is for everyone, I really want you to get a soil test. But if you don't have a soil test, then I probably would put down the PGF Balance. Now PGF Balance is a brand new professional grade 10-10-10 superfine particles with micronutrients and iron. But you can put that out before, a light coat of that before, along with humichar. Man, you'll have fantastic planting surface to put in new sod or new seed. So let's talk about new sod installation. Once you get your sod installed, your installer really should hand you or send you a link to caring instructions because that's the critical part about new sod and even new seed. And that is the watering instructions. So basically what you want is you want your sod kind of like a wet sponge. You want it to stay damp, you want it to stay moist, but of course you don't want it soaking wet. But you do want to keep it moist all the time. So generally you'll see on these instructions, and if your installer doesn't give you instructions, you can go online and find these all over the place. But basically the rule of thumb goes like this. The first week it's 3 times a day you water. The second week, it's 2 times a day that you water. And then your third week, it's once a day that you water. And then after that point, your sod, after about 3 weeks, your sod should be rooted. You should be able to go to the corners, give a little tug, and your sod should be rooting all over. And then you just put it on a normal watering schedule, just making sure that it never goes through any extreme dry out periods. Fertilizing. Like I said, remember, let's go back to rule number one. Kind of leave it the hell alone. I really hope you got a soil test before you did your sod. If you haven't, I really recommend you getting one. If you're not going to get a soil test, then I would probably, on brand new sod, I would probably put out PGF Balanced, a light coat. Now PGF Balanced, when you put it out at the bag rate, you're only putting out like 0.3 something pounds per thousand of the nutrients. But it's a nice broad spectrum and you're not putting a huge amount of nitrogen. You really don't want to come out, I hate to say this, but you almost don't want to use a lawn care company that sprays, because they're pretty much spraying liquid nitrogen on your lawn. They may spray like a 30-05 on your lawn, and they may spray weed killers, and they may spray Pre-Emergent. Remember, a lot of the bigger companies, they don't specialize their mixture when they do that. They fill up a tank and they go out and spray everyone's yard because it's that time of year. So if you have new sod, I almost would not use a lawn treatment company. So new sod, new seed, don't use the big box, the big guys that come around and spray. I really would kind of stay away from that. What I want to see is probably PGF Balance or a light coat of PGF Complete. Either one will work. And we've had tons of people with brand new sod use PGF Complete. You're putting out light coats of it and have fantastic results with it. Same thing with seed. People planting seed. PGF Complete, light coats. It's a very slow release fertilizer. Now the PGF Balance is not slow release. Remember that. PGF Balance is not a slow release. It's all fast release, and that's why you put it out very, very lightly. Hence the reason for the tiny, tiny particles that look like a salt shaker. Now let's cover probably the biggest concern for people, which is pre-emergent. The way pre-emergent works is it stops new cell growth. So a seed can still germinate, but once it germinates, it can't grow roots. So the new plant dies basically because it can't establish roots. You're about to hear spraying because I may have to move because my watering, oh crap. Alright, it's just missing me. Hopefully you can still hear me. I might have to move here in a second. Yeah, that's better. So on your pre-emergent, if you put on a lot of pre-emergent, you can sort of hurt the root development. So that's why we don't put any pre-emergent. The technical or whatever one, the rule of thumb is for the first year you don't put down any pre-emergent on new sod or new seed. That's the rule, the first year. I like to say the first full growing season, and let me explain. So let's say I had new sod installed in May, and I went all the way through my summer and went all the way through my fall without putting pre-emergent on. Come this winter, you can start your pre-emergent program. I have no problem with you starting with a pre-emergent program, let's say in late February. Start putting down, now I'm talking Georgia schedule. Getting ahead of weeds and crabgrass, you can go ahead and put down pre-emergent. You can follow pretty much a normal schedule at that point. If you're having sod put down in the fall and it barely roots, no, you don't want to put down pre-emergent. Remember, that's the rule of thumb. The rule of thumb is, has your new sod and seed had time to develop a root system that's deep enough that it won't be impacted by the pre-emergent? And the pre-emergent is typically going to stay in the first ½ inch to 1 inch of soil. So if your root system has already developed past that point, you've already got roots which are 2 inches deep, you really shouldn't have any problem with pre-emergent. Remember, Bermuda grass roots can easily be 24 to 48 inches deep. This sod here is probably 14 years old. I guarantee you my roots are 3 feet deep. They're just super, super deep into this soil. Bermuda has huge root systems, deep. So that's kind of the rule I use about pre-emergent. So if you have longer roots and your roots have had time to develop past that 2 inch mark, which is a full growing season, then you can start your pre-emergent program. Now let's talk about treating weeds. Remember, the majority of weeds are not perennial. So in other words, there has to be new seed generated every single year. So if you're starting to see some weeds in your new turf or new seed, chill pill. Just leave them alone. Just keep cutting your grass, and we'll wait till next year to start battling weeds. I really don't like to put down negatives, and a weed killer is a negative. I don't like to put anything negative down on a lawn until it's had its full first growing season. Now, here's the only exception to that rule. When you have a really hard freeze and you have a long period where your Bermuda is dormant, so let's say for me that's January, so I have my temperatures, and my temperatures in January are going to be a high of 40, low in the 20s, and it's that way for 10 days, and all my Bermuda grass is brown except for some green weeds. Yes, you can go out and get a selective weed killer, not something like Roundup that kills everything, but a selective weed killer, and treat your lawn for weeds. We never ever use Roundup or a broad spectrum killer, indiscriminate killer on Bermuda, even when it's dormant, because it's never really dormant. In the wintertime, and I've shown this before, I can go down and dig through that brown grass and find some green sprouts. Well, they're going to be hit and you're going to kill your Bermuda grass. So never put a Roundup type killer on your lawn, even though you think it's dormant, because it's not. So in the winter time, you can go ahead and treat for your weeds. Someone asked me, someone had a question, said, hey Doc, I planted my new sod and it was late summer. It established fairly well, and I'm coming into the winter. In the middle of winter, my lawn is completely dormant. Can I put out a light coat of pre-emergent to battle my poana? Yeah, I think you're okay, because the pre-emergent will kind of wear off after about 3 months. So if you're going to put it down in the winter, and then you've got 3 months for that to sort of die off and not be any good, and when the springtime comes around, when the temperatures start to come up, I think you'll be okay. It's a fine line there, but those are the basic rules. Now let's talk about cutting and scalping. Cutting height. All new sod should be maintained, I would say, depending on the levelness of your yard, somewhere between, I really like to see new sod at about 1 inch. Keep it at about 1 inch, maybe a little, maybe 1.5 inches. You just don't want to take it down too short, and you do not want to let it get up to like 3 inches tall. You just want to keep cutting it gently, keep cutting it gently. The other thing you want to be careful about is riding heavy equipment after rains, because your sod is still a little bit loose. So unfortunately, if you get a heavy rain system move in, you don't want to take riding lawnmowers out until you've had at least, I would say, 48 hours for that lawn to dry off. You really want to let that soil firm up before you put heavy equipment on. So hopefully you have a push mower or you have a reel mower. If not, just be real careful about soggy, wet surfaces. What else are we going to talk about in new sod? I think those are the general treatments. People ask about double kill product. Yeah, you can put out a bug treatment in the fall. You can put out a double kill treatment, and it'll kill any grubs, any armyworms, any invasive species that are going to go into the grass without any problem. So yes, you can put down the double kill granular product. Link in the description below. PGF Balance, all links in the description below. What about funguses? If you have a big problem with fungus, yeah, get the granular fungicide in the description below and put it out. But otherwise, I would just sort of just not do anything with it. Again, you have to keep going back to my #1 rule, which is take a chill pill and just leave it the hell alone. The first year of new sod, especially for Bermuda, but warm season sod, is just let it sort of do its own thing and ignore the weeds. Let me give you a perfect example of this. The yard across the street, if you've been watching this project, how we're killing off a yard that once was sod and 15 years later is now 80% weeds because it's never been taken care of. Well, like the test patch and the other lawns, the same thing. So we went back 10 years later, we did a hard kill off, we're killing off all the weeds, and we're letting the Bermuda regenerate itself. So the fact that you have a couple of weeds in your lawn the first year really is no big deal. Chill out. Don't worry about it. I really just want you to relax, maintain proper watering, put down a light fertilizer, and really I strongly recommend a soil test. Get a soil test. Dig down into that 4-inch mark to see what that new sod and new seed is growing into, and make adjustments like that. So anyways, guys, this is just a quick video. If you have any more questions, put them down below for new sod or new seed only for the questions. And what I'll do is on the page listed below in the link, I'll try and answer any more questions as they come up, and I'll put some tips down there too. Talk to you later. Doc.